I wanted to ask if you all think that with the departure of Lisa Jackson and Armendariz from EPA, if there's going to be a shift in the kind of Texas versus the United States situation in terms of environmental regulation, or if you think this is basically a fixed pattern until the presidency changes.
Chairman Shaw.
Sure. I'm happy to report that I have a much better relationship with Ron Curry, the current Region 6 Regional Administrator, and I'm hopeful we're both having the right kinds of conversations. Whenever I heard that he was appointed, I called him that day and pointed out to him that I hope that we could communicate and commit to communicating to each other, and he had the same idea. We've spoken often, and in fact, we've visited often, and we're planning to make, we're likely to be face-to-face with one another in the next couple of days as well. We really have both committed that we're trying to make sure that we avoid what seemed to have been happening with Dr. Armendariz with the regional office, where instead of communicating with us, there were press releases sent out, and then we found out about what was happening, which didn't facilitate good communication. I'm hopeful at the federal level that I've worked with Gina McCarthy, who is the appointed, was nominated administrator of EPA. In the past, I've worked with her, and unfortunately, things such as the cross-state air pollution rule, whenever we requested meetings and opportunities to share data that would have pointed out errors in their analysis, we weren't able to get those meetings. So I'm hoping that will change in her new role, but it's going to have to be a change because she was the head of the air office at the time. And so, for example, they thought we had 90,000 megawatts of generating capacity when we had 72, and so they didn't think there was an impact of the rule on generating capacity in the state. Those are things that we need, even if I don't agree with the rule they're doing, at least if we can discuss and get them the data that's accurate, they can then understand the implications of that. So we're continuing to push for that. I'm hopeful that she'll take meetings when she's confirmed, assuming she is, and certainly my relationship with Ron Curry has been very positive at this point, and so I'm hopeful that we'll start to see some movement where we actually, after concluding that we agree on something, the response will be let's move forward to resolve it, instead of what I got both from Dr. Armendariz and frankly from Gina McCarthy in the past, where they said, well, sorry, we don't like that, we don't want that, and so it was kind of a non-starter. So I'm hopeful that this new relationship will lead to some positive results.
Yeah, we ought to be clear, though, this is not fundamentally a disagreement about personality or among personalities. This agency under this leadership has been against every new air health safety standard that EPA has come out with. They've been against the mercury standard, they're against the greenhouse standard, they're against the new ozone standard, they're against the greenhouse permitting standard. Every new permit or standard that comes out, no matter whether the EPA Health Advisory Committee has recommended it unanimously, this agency has been against it. They issue press release the day it comes out and file lawsuit all the time. I used to be a litigator, and I know when the litigators get in the way, it's really hard to have conversation. So yeah, I think Al Armendariz should have been a lot more careful with his language. But the state also is not only hostile to the rules, but frankly make claims like the president is intentionally issuing this rule to hurt the economy of Texas. I mean, those are inflammatory things have been said by officials here, and it makes it hard to have a good conversation. It is a two-way street, and that's all everybody ought to recognize.
And to be clear, I think that if you look at my comments on these many issues, I've been pushing for that two-way street. We have something called cooperative federalism, whereby the federal government develops standards and works cooperatively with the states, and the states have the opportunity and the responsibility of developing the customized approach to solving those problems. What we've seen of late is that the federal government has not been honoring that federal cooperativism. Whenever we've looked at these different rules, we have an obligation to make sure EPA's rules and initiatives follow their own rules, follow federal law, and that they respect and work toward having that cooperative relationship where we can solve those problems. As I like to say, if we're chasing the wrong rabbits, no one has benefited from that. And so we have an obligation to make sure that just because the federal government says we want to do X, that we don't blindly follow that. Otherwise, we would have, for example, the cross-state rule, which had errors built into it. We have a responsibility to ensure that we're weighing in on what is really going to affect the health and the environment of Texans. And if we just turn our blind eye and say, whatever EPA does or says, we'll do it, then you don't need me in my job. Because my job, if you just want someone to rubber stamp what EPA does, you don't need someone, and you don't need my staff and our expertise to ensure that we customize that. And if you look at the record, Texas has made great strides to improving the environment in doing that in a way that also allows for strong economics, which I think helps us to be better prepared and better able to address future environmental challenges.